And now let's go ahead and dive right into this NFL Showdown slate with me and TJ. We are covering the Titans versus the Rams. And real quick, guys, for anybody who hasn't seen me doing content, just want to give a quick update. I do have a medical condition. If you guys haven't noticed my already ugly enough face, the right side of my face just doesn't work. So, just real quick, flashback to Monday night. Had a scare. Thought I had a stroke, got an MRI checked out. Don't have a stroke. It is Bell's palsy. And all that means is that the right side of my face just doesn't work. So if you guys would, just be patient, bear with me here. It's just a simple medical condition. It'll take about 1 to 2 weeks to fully recover. But you'll just notice that the right side of my face just doesn't work. So I'll do the best I can. You guys can still hear me. I'll get out the content. And going forward, I think that's what we're going to do, TJ. We're just going to keep putting out content. We'll go ahead and do the best that we can here, TJ.
If I see anybody in the comments say anything mean, I will find you and I will fucking kill you.
Yeah, so also TJ can't make me laugh because as you guys can see, I cannot laugh at all. It's just the left side of my face working. So we're going to go ahead and do this, TJ. Yes. Let's go ahead and go position by position. We're going to have you to kind of take it over because, again, we're just going to test this out. So starting at the quarterback position, let's go and talk about the Titans first. Ryan Tannehill. Right now, by the way, the game total is a 52.5 over under. The Rams -7 favorites at home. So right now, Tannehill, let's go ahead and talk about him at 10.2K. Is he a cash necessity?
Yes, I think he's somebody that you're going to want to try and roster here, Matt. $9,800, currently showing 36% ownership. I'm actually kind of surprised at the spread on this game. The Rams opened up at 6.5-point favorites. I kind of thought with the Derrick Henry news, they'd be more of a heavier favorite. I know Tennessee's been really good this year, but losing Derrick Henry, he's legitimately the most important player to any team in the NFL. So currently now the Rams sitting at 7.5-point favorites, 71% of the bets coming in on the Rams. So I guess people do agree with me. But yeah, I think Tannehill in this type of game script where they should be playing from behind, obviously they're going to rely a lot more on Tannehill going forward because of Derrick Henry going down.
Right.
We know how good this Rams offense is. Obviously, another defensive acquisition that they just made, trading for Von Miller into the mix. So that defense just became a lot more scarier. A lot more scary. A scarier word?
Yeah, okay. Scary. You're right.
Yeah, more scarier. More scariest. So yeah, I think Tannehill for cash, $9,800. If you have the flexibility to do it, yeah, I think he's a guy that you're going to want to get in. Just game script.
Yeah, regardless, this is a 52.5 over under. Even if it's not competitive, there should be a lot of points scored. I don't think defense is a necessity here. I don't think the Rams put up enough points to make the optimal. We have not seen the defense make the optimal. Again, I keep saying this every single Showdown video, TJ, dating back to when the Panthers, forget who they played, but they made it into the optimal with like 8 DraftKings points because the entire game was just a horrible thing to watch. But this game should not be that. Should be a lot of offense scored, assuming that A.J. Brown does play because that's their main offensive weapon right now. But let's go ahead and focus over on the running back position, TJ, with Jeremy McNichols at 7.8K at 16.2%, Adrian Peterson at 25.2. Do you have any interest here on any one of these running backs?
Here comes Adrian Peterson. Hasn't played since 2020. He's very cheap, and there's no denying that. He's 3K. He's going to carry some ownership, Matt. They've apparently been impressed with how he's looked so far. I just don't know what the workload's going to be like. Can you go to him in cash? Yeah, I think people are going to go to him. I think he's going to be
He's going to be very chalky. Yes, he is.
Yes, I do understand that. I don't know if I trust it. Like, I just don't. I'd rather, Jeremy McNichols has been kind of that change of pace back here for Derrick Henry, the pass catching back. So if that's something that we're going to continue to see, we're going to see, I want to call Adrian Peterson Derrick Henry. If we're going to see AP on first and second down and then bringing in Jeremy McNichols for third downs, passing plays, etc., then yeah, if AP is going to get those carries, then I think you can go to him in cash. Again, I do think he's cash viable, Matt. I'm thinking just from my perspective in cash, play Adrian Peterson if you need a cheap option. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Like, I feel like Jeremy McNichols is going to be in line for a much larger workload.
Can't wait to talk about it.
$7,800. Yeah. I think the price is too rich for me for cash. I'm going to love him for tournaments. Again, playing from behind, like if they're going to be trailing by 14 points, like deep into that second half, I think you're going to see a lot of McNichols running routes out of the backfield. I don't think we're going to see a lot of AP. If this game's more competitive, we could see AP a little bit more on the ground. But again, Matt, yes, at 3K, he is cash viable. He's going to carry ownership. I just don't know if I feel safe.
away both of them, honestly. So
Yeah,
Jeremy McNichols at 16.2%. Yeah, let's talk about this. On Prize Picks, the one thing we always like to do when looking at projections is taking the industry projections off of Prize Picks. Right now, he's projecting at 9. So it does look like he's going to be in line for a decent amount of snap share, being on the field a lot, TJ. And again, he always has that PPR upside, something that you have with Derrick Henry, which is something you'll love to see here. Looking back at week 4, he got 12 total targets. And that's something we could expect here in this type of game script. Not saying that he's going to do that, but in the game script where he's playing from behind, definitely does increase that likelihood that he should be getting the ball a lot more than he should be playing alongside Derrick Henry. So yeah, 16.2%. Don't hate either one of these running backs, and I do love Adrian Peterson, obviously, for cash. To say, even if he gets half the snap counts, TJ, I think he should easily hit that. Again, we haven't seen him play since 2020, but he should get a decent amount of workload to cover that price tag at 3K. He's going to be a very cheap option and a very good one there, carrying some ownership. Wide receiver position, TJ. So there's a lot to talk about. A.J. Brown, what a beast he has been recently. Finally, dropping back-to-back 30-point performances, getting heavy targets. At 10.2K, though, very expensive, 36.5% ownership, and he also did not practice on Friday. So with that being said, are you considering him in cash if he does play?
It's a really tough matchup, obviously, against that Rams secondary. If this is a game where Jalen Ramsey decides to shadow, I think that just completely AJ Brown's very good. Jalen Ramsey, obviously one of the best corners in the league. So I think if this is a game where, Ramsey hasn't been shadowing. If he is or decides to against AJ Brown this week, that's something I want to avoid. So that's something I'm going to be trying to look into, Matt, before this game actually starts. I think the 10-2 price tag is tough to get to, but he's been very consistent over these last couple weeks. Tannehill, it's obviously his number one target here. Julio Jones is just an absolute disappointment.
Yeah.
Can't stay healthy. He's always got some sort of lingering injury going on. He's basically only played in, week 2 was the only game where he was actually somewhat relevant. It just hasn't been that second option that I think that the Titans were really looking to bring in from Atlanta. I think if you can get AJ Brown, Matt, I do want to do it. If I can have Tannehill, AJ Brown, if that means I have to go to Adrian Peterson, I guess I'm going to swallow that bullet and kind of run with that.
I can already tell you the chalk build right now, just looking at the prices here.
Yeah. So outside of AJ Brown, I don't really have too much interest in either of these guys. If AJ Brown sits, Matt, it's going to open up a ton of cheap value here with Nick Westbrook. Even Chester Rogers, all these guys, I think are going to be somewhat relevant in a game where they're going to be trailing. But it goes without saying, until we actually know if AJ Brown is going to play or not, he's the guy that I obviously want to have from these Titans wide receivers.
Yeah, Marcus Johnson is another guy I want to talk about. Only if AJ Brown does not play, played 66% of snaps last game. Yeah, he played a lot. So at $800, lock me in for an $800 Marcus Johnson at 66% of snaps. But yeah, AJ Brown, if you can get him in, obviously consider him cash viable. Julio Jones, strictly GBP, in my opinion. He has done nothing to show that he's worth rostering unless you're playing bigger GBPs, like you said. AJ Brown looks to be the focal point of the offense. And honestly, without Derrick Henry, he should be getting just as many targets, if not more, here going forward, especially in this game script. All right, moving on to the tight end position here. We have Geoff Swaim. I think that's how you pronounce his name, at 4.5 projected. That's not his ownership. His ownership is 5.2. His projection is at 5.5. TJ, do you have any interest here in the tight end picture?
No. Tight ends for me.
Yeah, it looks like these guys don't get enough volume to really warrant anything outside of big GBPs. And then the kickers are always relevant. Bullock in the game script where he should be playing from behind, definitely not as much interest, TJ, at 17%. But as the last piece, definitely don't hate it. I do prefer the kicker from the other side. We'll get there here in just a second. Switching over to the Rams quarterback situation, Matthew Stafford. I know you like talking about your Rams because you have almost all of them in all your fantasy leagues. So let's hear it. TJ, are you starting Matthew Stafford this week for the showdown slate?
Yes, that's all I have to say. Yes, play Matthew Stafford. 12-8. It's a really tough price tag to get to, but it's something that I'm going to try to make a necessity, Matt. So yes, I do want a heavy dose of Matthew Stafford.
41.2%. I believe that's the highest on the slate for good reason. Great matchup. Titans have been struggling.
Highest.
Second highest. Okay.
You know who the
Yep. Yeah, we're going to go over there here in just a little bit, but Darrell Henderson is next on the list here at 35.3%. 17-point projection. TJ, is he cash viable at his lofty price tag at 9.2K? Actually got a price decrease from the last time he was on the showdown slate.
Yeah, I think he is cash viable, Matt, but I just think it's a really tough price point to get to with the other guys that you're making a necessity. So I think he can get there, but it remains unseen for me, at least, if he's going to be a viable option based off of what I have going on. But yes, the ownership that he's carrying, $9,200 price tag, he definitely warrants it. The volume has been there for Darrell Henderson in this offense. He's been catching balls out of the backfield. He's a very safe option. So yes, I do believe that he is cash viable.
Now, if this game does get out of hand here, because this is a 7-point favorite at home, Sony Michel also showing a $2,800 price tag. He does get volume when they are ahead. We do see that here at 12.2%. So are you considering him in cash, or is he more of a GPP play?
No, I don't have any interest in options for the wide. Like, I'd rather have Marcus Johnson than I would Michel, just because Sony Michel is totally there for, to give Daryl Henderson a break every, third or fourth down, and then or excuse me, drive. Not down. And late into those fourth quarters. So in games where they're competitive, you see Daryl Henderson play 90% of offensive snaps, 82% of offensive snaps, 88% of offensive snaps. Last week, obviously, in a game that blew out, Sony Michel got 30% of offensive snaps, where Daryl Henderson only played 61. So if you think this game is going to stay somewhat competitive, Matt, then no, Sony Michel isn't an option for me. If you think this game does blow out, then yeah, Sony Michel could see 25 to 30% of offensive snaps. Could have a decent week like he did against Seattle, but I wouldn't put too much stock into it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. 2.8% or 2.8K at 12.2%. I definitely think he's more of a GPP option. He's showing well in our projections, but again, only because of the blowout potential here in this game. All right. Switching over to the wide receiver position, we have the highest owned guy on the slate, Cooper Kupp. What's there need to be said about Cooper Kupp here? 49.2%. He's projecting the highest on the slate here at 23 fantasy points. TJ, is he a lock in cash at 12.4K, which is very high? Okay.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and talk about the rest of these wide receivers, because this offense is without Deshaun Jackson now. Robert Woods at 8.6K, showing 31.7% at 16.5 projection, and then Van Jefferson here at 6.8K at 25.6%. Are you considering these guys in cash?
No. Not for cash. GPP is only for Robert Woods and Van Jefferson for me. I think you're spending up for Cooper Kupp and you're spending up for Matthew Stafford. If you're doing that, it doesn't really leave too much flexibility for those mid-tier wide receivers for the Rams.
Yeah, and I mean, their price points make it very awkward. I really do like them in terms of GPPs, just in terms of the leverage here. They're actually showing higher ownership than I thought. So make for great GPP pivots if you want to pivot off of Cooper Kupp and hope that he just sucks randomly, which it probably won't happen. But if he does, huge leverage potential here with Robert Woods projecting at 16.5 and Van Jefferson at 8.5. So TJ, without Deshaun Jackson in the mix here, who do you think that gives a boost to? Is there any other wide receivers that you're looking at other than those three? Or do you think Van Jefferson and Robert Woods get a nice little bump here?
So Skowronek is a guy that's been getting some opportunity.
He did.
I just think Van Jefferson's gonna kind of solidify himself as that third or fourth option, I guess, if you want to consider Higbee. I think they're like a 3A, 3B. So I don't really necessarily think it gives anybody too much of a bump, because we really weren't seeing a guy like Deshaun Jackson out there too much, Matt.
Right.
I mean, the most offensive snaps he played in a game was 32%. Over the last couple weeks, week 6, he was out there for 24% of offensive snaps. Week 7, 6%. I'm pretty sure you got that.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
So, I mean, he was out there for a fourth or a third of offensive snaps. So I don't really necessarily think it gives a bump to anybody significantly. I think obviously Van Jefferson becomes that third-ish to fourth-ish option, and kind of takes that role moving forward. And at $6,800, I don't really like the price tag on him.
I agree with you. I think that Cooper Kupp's really the only priority when looking at these wide receivers, and the other guys are just going to be GPP options. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the tight end position. You talked about Higbee. So are you considering him in cash at 21.8%? Comes out to a 5.6K price tag, which is, it's decent. But do you think his role increase is enough to really warrant a roster spot here for cash?
No, he's been too inconsistent just in terms of, volume week in and week out. $5,600, man. I think there's way better cheaper options there from the Titan wide receivers to roster Higbee. Love him for tournaments. I think he's a good tournament play. They're in that, in that mid-tier range. But in terms of cash, I don't feel safe rostering him. I feel like he's very touchdown dependent, whether or not he's going to hit value or not.
I completely agree with you. All right, I think that's it, TJ. So we just covered the entire slate. Also, the kicker here with Matt Gay. He's definitely, I definitely do like him.
Matt Gay is, I would, and you mentioned it. I would much rather go Matt Gay over Bullock.
Yeah, 25.7%. I'm not considering defenses. I'm full fading them because you guys know I'm a psychopath and I never include defenses, even if it's a low scoring game. TJ, do we have any prize picks for this slate?
Any PPP? Yes, we do. Hold on. Let me bring up the board because there was one guy that I did have some interest in. Where was it?
Also, if you guys want to sign
up.
What's that?
Go ahead. Nope.
Using code DGF for 100% match up to $100. Helps us out, helps you guys out, and it's one of the best ways to play daily fantasy sports. So, TJ, I'm sorry. What did you say? Do you have a prize pick?
So they do not, Matt, have Adrian Peterson on the board, which I find very interesting.
Yes, because they're scared to touch him.
I think they're scared to touch him as well. I personally like the over on Jeremy McNichols. The over currently sits at 9. I just really like his pass catching ability out of the backfield. I think he's probably going to play 70% of offensive snaps, Matt. I really don't think we see AP too much. I could be dead wrong. I'm playing AP in cash just because of the build that I just landed on. It just makes sense. But I like the McNichols over 9. I think he could have 4 or 5 catches here out of the backfield in a game where they should be trailing. So that would be my play. I wish it was 8.5, but I'll take it at 9.
And again, PPRs is like one of the biggest cheat codes in DFS. You get 1 catch for 1 yard, that's 1.1 points. So just think about McNichols, just keep getting volume out of the backfield. Very, very easy way to just accrue points there. So McNichols, 9 over is our favorite prize pick, guys, and that will end our video. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. If you did, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.
See you guys.